Kia ora and welcome back to New Zealand Fight Report for our first quarterly wrap of some of the best MMA, Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu action happening in Aotearoa this year. You all know the drill by now. We're here to gather and analyse highlights of the country's best fights from all the hard-working promotions in the business and to bring you all the action you should be but still aren't seeing on TV.
That's right, and even though our mainstream media is just starting to take note of some of the country's best MMA exports out in the wider world, there's still a lot going on in New Zealand's arenas, town halls and gyms that can slip under the radar of even the most dedicated fight fan. Regardless, it really has been a great year so far for New Zealand MMA, with huge victories for both James Tahuna and Mark Hunt in the UFC, while Dylan Andrews advanced to a talent-rich 17th season of The Ultimate Fighter.
On a related note, if you haven't caught our 16-minute interview with the legendary Super Samoan Mark Hunt yet, check out our YouTube channel for a pretty candid interview in which Mark talks about his upcoming fight with Junior Dos Santos, his thoughts on Oceania's MMA scene, and how to tell you've knocked someone out and can casually walk away. Anyway, back to these shorts for now.
We begin our coverage in Auckland, which has been sport for choice so far this year, with Shuriken and ICNZ both returning to the fray, as well as another edition of Grapplers Challenge. Let's start with Shuriken.
Shurikens North versus South pitted the islands against each other, and the result was a thrilling mixture of high-level grappling and solid stand-up. In the pro-class MMA main event, veteran Orphans MMA representative BJ Bland took on Johnny Lowe from Strike Force in Christchurch. It was an early battle for position on the ground, with both taking the upper hand at different points with ground and pound.
Oh, what a throw from Johnny! So he can't strike it. Oh, and he's raining down that elbow from the city.
But early in the second, Bland managed to lock up a tight standing guillotine and then transition to the ground to finish it and earn the tap from Lowe.
No, and he's tight and he wins. Very, very tight.
Prior to that, a lucky Ina Manase survived an early onslaught from Manu Panido that was only halted when Panido tried to finish the fight too eagerly, striking Manase in the back of the head and forcing a break in the action. Standing again, Manase still had to withstand some serious pressure, but towards the end of the round, the tide turned and it was Manase's turn to rain down punches from above, earning him the TKO victory.
He's giving it to Manu's just pulling guard at the moment. How many punches can he eat? I don't know if they're landing. Oh, the ref looks like he stopped it. The ref has stopped it. The ref.
Though it was mainly a night for MMA, two Muay Thai bouts also caught the eye. First, Selby Devereaux punched and kicked his way to a unanimous decision over a tough and powerful David Forster. There was some great technique on display from Devereaux, but he still had his hands full with the dangerous Forster, who looks to be an exciting prospect at only 16 years of age.
Definitely seemed a little bit more sharper tonight. And unfortunately for David, he can take a lot.
Then, in a switch of disciplines, MMA fighters Bevan Brooking and Vinny Stowe strapped on their 8-ounce gloves instead for an exhilarating Muay Thai fight that was too closely contested after 3 rounds to call, requiring a 4th to determine the victor. While Brooking had the upper hand early on, Stowe adapted well and wore Brooking down as the fight went on, using a rangy jab to dictate the distance late on and snapping kicks into Brooking's body and head. After 4 back-and-forth rounds, Stowe took the majority decision in an entertaining battle.
Some punches, oh my word, these boys are going at it. And they gave the winner is Vinny.
ICNZ 19 and Grassroots 5 was held on March the 9th at North Shore Event Centre, again featuring a full undercard of B-class fights along with A and Pro-class fights. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of the night. The main event of the evening was Robert Dean of Hammerhead taking on Simon Scott of City MMA. Dean took the fight to the fence early on, with both men swinging on the break. Scott advanced, striking on Dean before Dean dropped Scott with a straight right. Scott was able to stand up, and after a series of heated striking exchanges, Scott pressed forward for the cage. There, he executed a double leg and threw knees to the body on the ground. Dean managed to get the fight standing again, where both men landed some huge shots before Scott again landed the takedown. The first round finished with Scott on top. In the second round, Dean advanced with strikes as Scott looked to take the fight to the ground. Standing quickly from a pair of early takedowns, Dean broke from the clinch and unloaded on Scott, who started to look the worse for wear before landing a huge takedown.
He gets the takedown, Simon Scott on top. He's gone body, body. There we go, body, body, head.
Dean bucked and rolled as Scott looked to pass, and the fight returned to the feet for more toe-to-toe action.
Simon gets the underhook, turns in. Rob Dean needs the body again. Big shots.
Dean shot in for a takedown, which Scott was able to stuff. Scott rained down ground and pound from the knee ride position to get the TKO finish in a highly exciting fight.
And the warning, the ref looks like he's going to stop this at any second. Robert Dean is not fighting. It's all over.
Earlier in the night, Mike Kirkwood of Faith MMA faced off against Buchanan of Integrated Fighting in A-class action. The fight started with both fighters kicking tentatively to find their range. Kirkwood closed the distance and landed a knee against the cage before Buchanan took the fight to the ground with a double leg into half guard. Kirkwood looked to shrimp inside to get to his feet, but as he did, Buchanan locked in the guillotine choke for the first round submission victory.
The very first round, your winner by guillotine choke, fighting out of the blue corner!
The card's first pro-class fight saw Bevan Brooking of Te Kura Awhio taking on Andre Paulette of City MMA at 66 kilos. Early in the first, Paulette caught Brooking circling to his power side with a crushing right hand that sent him to the canvas, following up with devastating ground and pound for the TKO finish 21 seconds into the fight.
Andre Paulette!
Heavyweights collided in the co-main event of the evening as Mark Creedy of The Fight Shop faced off against Scott Taylor of Lockdown MMA. Early on, Creedy was able to nullify Taylor's takedowns with excellent defence and was looking to threaten with chokes. Taylor persisted with single leg attempts before landing the takedown and battering Creedy on the ground. Creedy managed to shake it off and get back to his feet, but Taylor threw a second wave of strikes and ended the fight by KO.
And now for the sad news. That, unfortunately, was the last you'll see from ICNZ, who have called it quits after 6 years at the forefront of New Zealand MMA's evolution. Promoters Neil Swales and Melody McDonald have cited time constraints and financial unsustainability as the main factors in their decision. But they leave us having nurtured and developed an experienced batch of mixed martial artists who are representing New Zealand all over the world. As unfortunate as it is, I'm sure we'll still be seeing them and their roster of champions appearing elsewhere in the near future.
Also in Auckland, New Zealand Grappler and Oliver MMA's Grapplers Challenge was back for another weekend of submission wrestling and BJJ matches in West Auckland. We were there to help make sense of the action unfolding on its 4 busy mats.
Sometimes it's a little tricky to follow the story of a grappler at an event like this. You might focus your attention on one tough scramble on the mat in front of you, only to hear the audience elsewhere erupting into applause as the submission sinks in on the mat right behind you. And it was a busy day for the grapplers too, with MMA fighters testing their mettle against straight submission artists and clubs from throughout the country visiting Te Atatu Peninsula Community Hall over the weekend. There was a jovial but competitive atmosphere, with families and fans filling every gap in the hall, as beginners, intermediates, kids and advanced grapplers sought to cement themselves in the BJJ world. For Wellington-based black belt Alex Scott, it was a chance to prepare for another appearance at Abu Dhabi's BJJ World Champs. After winning his advanced division finals against Bevan Brooking, who he just saw in action on his feet at Shurikens and ICNZ, the veteran grappler lost a sudden death war for a takedown in the open weight finals against another standout, Tukaha's John Olsen. Scott's trickery and expert timing lost out this time to the strength and power of the heavier Olsen, who also took the division in the advanced category with a submission win over Southern Tribe's Greg Burkett. Kate Da Silva, formerly Kate Aroa, was also looking to assert herself on the mats. The Crowland Gracie and JR MacGyver representative handled herself expertly as she dispatched Amy Barrett-Boyes from GSW and Marie Brown from Core MMA to claim their respective trophies for her advanced and openweight divisions. And her coaches, husband and trainer Roni Da Silva and daughter Leah, who were caught in their own sudden death match on the mats. In the heaviest category, Strikeforce MMA fighter Gareth Ely took both the openweight and advanced categories, taking on fellow MMA fighters Nick Daly of Southern Tribes and Vahed Unizi of Oliver MMA along the way. Ely and Daly fought twice in very competitive matches, but Ely's strength and technique were too much for his opponents. And lastly, one other heavyweight was standing by to provide the prizes, a low-key Mark Hunt, who posed for about 1,000 pictures and captured the glowing attention of all the younger UFC fans present. The Super Samoan is back in New Zealand training at Oliver MMA with Steve Oliver in preparation for his upcoming #1 contender bout with Junior Dos Santos.
In the lower North Island, first off we visit Wellington for KO Promotions' 20th instalment of Capital Punishment. We then head to Palmerston North, where Scorpion Gym continues to make its mark on the country's fight scene.
KO Promotions was back in February with the 20th instalment of Capital Punishment at the Indian Centre in Kilbirnie. We kick off with heavyweight action as Ata Whakalelu of MTI faced off against Aidan Koroheke of RTF Whanganui. Ata backed Aidan up to the corner early, landing a barrage of knees and earning a pair of standing 8 counts early in the first round. Aidan always looked dangerous with his hands, earning Ata's respect, but Ata's knees from the clinch and leg kicks in the later rounds were the deciding factors in a unanimous victory. James O'Connor of MTI Wellington and Andreas Akapop of 5G Dunedin battled it out in a technical full tie rules match. O'Connor, the southpaw, and Akapop, the orthodox fighter, spent the start of the fight cautiously measuring distance and finding their ranges. As the fight got into close quarters, O'Connor was able to execute a pair of throws in the first round. Both fighters landed kicks in the second round, with O'Connor landing a big straight left and a head kick towards the end of the round. Kicks and clinch knees from O'Connor featured heavily in the third round, and both fighters looked to land elbows in close. The split decision went the way of James O'Connor. The card was headlined by Sulin Leong of Jai Thai Boxing and Angela Newton from the Fight Shop in a full Thai rules bout. After measured early skirmishes, the fighters clinched for a gritty exchange that would characterise the rest of the bout. Leong was able to outposition Newton in the clinch, landing knees and numerous trips and throws. Leong was awarded the unanimous decision.
On the 23rd of March in Palmerston North, Scorpion Gym put on another class card of Muay Thai alongside an 8-man no-gi grappling competition. In Muay Thai action, back-to-back wins for a pair of fighters from Combat Room in Wellington were amongst the night's highlights. At 75 kg, Fabian Taylor of Combat Room versus Joe Ralston of Dannyvert Bulldogs was fought at a furious pace, with big shots thrown by both fighters. Taylor came forward aggressively, throwing knees from the clinch and leg kicks that scored for him throughout the fight. Ralston looked to score with big swinging hooks, but Taylor kept excellent defensive composure. Fighting through fatigue in the third, Ralston looked to swing the fight his way and finish strong, but Taylor had done enough and won by unanimous decision. Undefeated Angus Lindsay, also of Combat Room, faced off against Tipuni Maniapoto of Zero Tolerance. In the first round, Lindsay employed the smothering Thai clinch he's becoming known for, scoring with knees. The fight opened up in the second and third rounds on the feet, but Lindsay's clinch made the difference, where he was able to score with knees and foot sweeps. Lindsay threw a teep that sent Maniapoto to the mat at the end of the fight, and Lindsay was awarded the unanimous decision. The evening's 8-man 70-kilo no-gi grappling competition was taken out by Jiraiya Fernandez of MTI Wellington, who showed dominant jiu-jitsu in finishing each of his 3 matches.
Further north, Rivercity Rumble was back again in March at Whanganui Town Hall, and the hometown fans were out in big numbers to support their local fighters in Muay Thai and MMA, accompanied by a couple of Kyokushin karate belts.
In one of the best amateur Muay Thai fights so far this year, Whanganui local and Warrior representative Leon Carver fought his way to a thrilling split decision win to take the TBA NZ super lightweight title against dangerous elbow enthusiast Tyrone Campbell of Mana Muay Thai. Campbell really was relentlessly effective with his short and sharp elbows, and soon the blood was flowing from Carver's forehead. After a referee check that cleared Carver to continue, the momentum turned as Carver saw red and started laying into the southpaw Campbell with his own attack of frantic flurries and strong leg kicks. It was razor thin, but despite the blood and never say die attitude of the visitor, Carver stood his ground and took the decision to the audience's delight. Whatever the result, this was one of those pairings that really begs for a rematch, even if only for entertainment's sake. Elsewhere on the card, tall and rangy Assassin's Guild fighter Kyle Gallagher knocked out opponent Rehua Smallman from the combat room with a solid knee that landed flush, as the shorter Smallman tried to get into the pocket to land his strikes. Masterton-based Zane Hopman continued his ascent through the amateur Muay Thai world with another crushing victory, this time over Wellington Kyokushinkai's Kazuki Campbell. Hopman is looking better and better with every fight, and he dispatched Campbell with some vicious knees and combinations in the first round. Lastly, the combat room's Dom Tyler added another win to his record with a unanimous decision over wily veteran Terry Kremen from Featherston Muay Thai. The heavy-handed Wellingtonian was certainly looking for the finish, throwing some explosively big shots throughout, but Kremen refused to fold and gave as much back as he could right up until the final bell.
Red corner.
Last but not least, we visit Gisbournes, where the first edition of Victus, hosted by local gym Te Kura Awhio, went off.
In the main event, local favourite Julian Martinga bullied opponent Sam Casperson around the ring confidently with his hands down, looking for openings in the Casfit representative's kicking game to counter and land hard punches and leg kicks. On the back foot from the opening bell, Casperson could offer little to match Martinga's aggression, and the Te Kura Awhio fighter dropped him with a right hand at the end of the first round and finished with punches to earn the TKO victory. Debutant James Martinga was also victorious in his first A-Class MMA bout, sinking in the second round rear naked choke over the Fight Shop's Frank McRoy for the win, after some initial ground and pound in a first round that saw some even exchanges on the feet. Earlier in the night, BJ Bland's solid top game saw the Orphans MMA pro latch onto a vice-like mount over his opponent Kurt Winkleman and do enough damage with elbows and punches from the top in the first round to end the night early for Winkleman by medical stoppage between rounds. Lastly, a delighted hometown crowd welcomed Ben Florence to the A-Class MMA scene after the Te Kura Awhio fighter finished Tenali Isofea from the Fight Shop via second round TKO. It was a good performance, and it provided more evidence that the Gisborne locals are a team to watch, especially given that this was only the first event that the club has hosted. Well, Gisborne's first MMA show looks to have been a success, and plans are already coming together at Te Kura Awhio for its second show. As always, we'd like to remind all of the promoters around the country to let us know if you have an event coming up or a fighter making their way overseas, so that we can help spread the word and keep extending our coverage of combat sports here in New Zealand.
We'd also like to thank Avalon Studios for their continued support and resources in making the show, and to acknowledge the many trainers, fighters and promoters whose assistance and cooperation makes this all possible. We couldn't do it without you.
That's all we have time for this month. Cheers and catch you next time.
Hei kona.